always loved hip hop. I grew up in the culture. It was the only real culture that I identify with because my racial background is mixed. And so although I have, part of my family's Puerto Rican, part of my family's black, mixed with Chinese, we were brought up in a very American culture in that I don't speak, I'm not fluent in Spanish, although I understand some stuff. And I didn't grow up eating soul food. Like, I just came up in New York City, which was this melting pot of all these different races. But for a cultural background, I would say the one that I identified the most with was hip hop. When I went into college, I saw more opportunities on the industry side. And so that's when like the hip hop culture background and the music industry started to mix for me, because I went into an internship that I saw in the Village Voice at BMG Distribution, and I started to learn the business side of music. And that's when I really knew it was something that I wanted to be, and I just didn't know what my lane was at the time. I got to the Source around 2000. I was the associate music editor. I was hired by Carlito Rodriguez, and it was after a 1-month stint at XXL where I was hired by Elliot Wilson as the lifestyle editor. So I had only been there a month, and that was like my big break. But when the opportunity came up to work at the Source, just wanting to be at the Source made me leave. The first cover that I did as the executive editor, I wasn't technically the EIC, but it was the first one where I kind of took a more leadership role, and it was a Trina cover. The cover had already been decided. It was something that was already in the works. I kind of just came in into that role. But a lot of people remember that cover because I believe it was the one where she was sitting on a dolphin. And the little dolphin thing was poking her. It was a big cover, a big sexy cover, and I think it was a swimsuit issue. So that was the first one I worked on as the executive editor. But I think crowning achievement of my time in getting to that position, to the editor-in-chief position, was a cover where it was a September 2002 issue, and it was Jay-Z, it was Rockefeller, it was Jay-Z, Dame Dash, Cameron, Freeway, against the New York backdrop. It was 1 year after the 9/11 tragedy, so it was good. It was like a big thing for New York and for hip-hop. It was a really big story, and it ended up being one of the best selling issues ever. Elliot, being that he had hired me at XXL, I guess because I had left and now I had taken this job at the Source magazine, we were very competitive because that was a really critical time in hip-hop media. And really the Source and XXL were the two strongest and most influential publications. Like anything in hip-hop, it was very competitive. So we were very competitive with each other. I felt like there came a point in time, and if you ask Elliot, it's funny because Elliot will be like, yo, KO is mad competitive. And I am very competitive. That's how you have to be in order to win. Like, you can't win unless you're competing against somebody. So, and I like to win. There was just a lot of shit going on behind the scenes. The Eminem stuff, and it kind of helped XXL when we had a major fallout with Eminem publicly, because what did they do? They went to the other magazine, and at the time they were that powerhouse in hip-hop. So here we come, we're in the midst of this war with Eminem, and then they end up on the cover with M50 and Dre of XXL. And I think that pushed them over a little bit in terms of, and I don't want to say we were any less credible, but to the public who didn't really know, they looked at that as being more credible. And pretty sure that issue beat out, because I used to watch the numbers between the two magazines, I'm pretty sure that issue beat us out that month. That might have been the only issue and I could be wrong. But from my memory, it was so long ago, I believe that was the only issue at the time that had ever outsold the Source. I came back to the Source because, one, it was under new ownership. So I didn't fall out with the magazine. I fell out with the former owners. And that was very public. Everybody knows what it was. But, they're doing their own thing now. I'm doing my own thing. So I don't look at it like, like I can't go back to the Source. I came back to the Source because I believed in the brand, and I believe what the brand means to this culture. And I felt like I needed to come back to finish something that I didn't get a chance to finish. Doing the things that I wanted to do, right? Making the points that I wanted to make, telling the stories I wanted to tell. I think that one of the things that we're lacking right now, while we're watching everybody kind of rise in the digital space, is we've lost that art of storytelling. That's how it is for us right now online in hip hop. Like, you go online in the morning, what's the biggest story? Oh, Nicki Minaj said this, or so-and-so said this to so-and-so on Twitter. Like, that's all we're really doing online. We're not doing the reporting and the stuff that we were doing once in hip hop, which built the Source. That's what the Source was built on, diving deeper. Because at the time when the Source was founded, the magazines that were out were like, Black Beat and Word Up. And it was all about taking those pictures and putting them on your wall. And maybe some Q&As with the artists. But it wasn't, that having that political voice, that hip-hop political voice. If Rick Ross comes out and says, I mess with the Source is hot, the same way that M. Dre and 50 did with XXL, that will take you over. Because the audience right now looks to these artists for guidance. So within hip hop, they're looking around and they're like, okay, what are you telling me what to do? What does Lil Wayne want me to do? Oh, Lil Wayne wants me to buy the Source? Okay, then I'm gonna buy the Source. That's really all it is. People think they're trying to overthink it and no, it's really about that cover artist. All you really need is a cosign these days. It's just like getting a record deal. When you go out there, you can't just be a good rapper and go to a record company right now. Nobody's signing you. You gotta go there and you gotta be like, so Lil Wayne, he's co-signing me. And that's how you're getting on these days. Someone has to co-sign you, right? Yeah. It's the same way right now in the media business, which is a shame because we really shouldn't be there. It really shouldn't be about, the artists having to co-sign us to get respect. But that's where we are. That's where we are, really. So I don't look at it necessarily saying, okay, the Source is not, relevant anymore. Like, says who? Did somebody say that? That's a question. But how long ago did that person say that? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you still looking at that? It's a whole new game now. So that could be a question. Like, you could say, well, so-and-so said the Source ain't relevant, and the entire hip-hop community followed without doing their homework, and now have decided we're going to go with somebody else. But when you get down to the content and the nuts and bolts of what's inside, I don't think you could compare. We're working really hard now with a lot less than we worked with back then, and I think that we're doing a great job, and it's going to take time to get us back there. But hey, tomorrow, your favorite rapper's favorite rapper could say the Source is hot, and all of a sudden everybody's going to be back on the bandwagon.